Welcome to the podcast where we talk about everything hidden in the shadows. This is Megan, and on this bonus episode, I have the immense pleasure of talking to Tik Tok Rocker Erica. What is
Hello.
Up, Erica? What is up, Erica? Thanks for coming on. So for those of you that don't know who Erica is, she is on TikTok and she makes videos, about rock genre, that dives into different things like butt rock and all that stuff.
Absolutely.
But we decided to bring her on the show because she has an interest in paranormal, and she also urban explores. And on this week of Hidden in the Shadows, we're talking about paranormal and like music and the correlation with that, like how bands have integrated paranormal subjects, kind of like Motionless in White, how they've kind of done like paranormal subjects into their music, and then like how music makes people feel and how kind of that goes in play. But first, I want Erica to kind of talk about like what she does over there on TikTok.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. This is my first like official like podcast interview talk kind of thing. So
Awesome.
This is really exciting. I'm so honored to be here. Also, can I just say really quick though, like my top favorite conversations are rock music, the paranormal, and then urban exploration. We're doing all three right here.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah. I would say that's mine too.
Yeah. So I'm like, I am just having a hell of a time. But yeah, so on TikTok, I guess the thing that I'm most known for, quote unquote, is the Jam With Me. So basically what those are is it was an opportunity for me to showcase different bands, like some of my favorite bands. Like, for example, my first one was Avenged Sevenfold. And I kind of looked at it as, oh, let's say I'm talking to someone, they've never heard of that band. Like, oh, here's some, I would include like 6 to 8 songs. I feel like this is like a good introduction. And then on my TikTok page in general, I try to showcase all kinds of subgenres of rock, because I feel like, I mean, this goes for people that love all kinds of genres, but specifically in the rock genre, a lot of people appreciate multiple subgenres, and maybe there's subgenres people weren't ever like properly introduced to, like thrash metal or glam metal or 80s, 90s, like whatever it is. So I listen to quite a variety. I would say. So I kind of use it as a way to just show everybody all kinds of different bands and subgenres that they may not have been introduced to.
Yeah, awesome. So on this episode, we're going to kind of integrate the three and kind of like go in and out of urban exploring, paranormal, and rock music. So because you're into rock music, I have to ask, leading off the bat, what is your all-time favorite band?
I love this question. I have to say System of a Down right away, because they're just so chaotic. And I feel like my personality is kind of chaotic, kind of all over the place. And that's like kind of how their music is when people listen to it. Like I've shown people System of a Down before and they're like, this is too much. And I'm like, that's exactly why I love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the lead singer, Serge, like he's such an amazing person, so incredibly talented. And I just love that band. What is your favorite band?
So mine, it changes. Like it right now. So heavy wise, I would have to say like Norma Jean and Fit for a King is like tied. Like I saw them live, and ever since I've seen them live, I'm just like, I'm obsessed.
I am jealous. I've always wanted to see Fit for a King live. I have not had the opportunity to.
They're number one, they are so good. Number two, their stage presence is great. And number 3, like you could tell they're just genuinely nice guys. Like when they're up there, they interact with the crowd. There's no like, like sometimes you can get some snobby like lead screamers and singers and stuff like that. But like, nope, all of them genuine. They'll walk amongst the crowd like leading up to the show and like, hey, how you doing? They're not like, hey, don't come up to me. So,
I love that. I love when people are really interactive with the crowd.
Yeah, a lot of good stuff to say about them. But I have to say, like, if you less heavier, I would have to say Palais Royale is like my favorite.
Oh, okay.
I love whenever he does covers. I don't know. I just like it a lot.
Yeah. I know one song from them, which is You'll Be Fine.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, it's good. Well, like their first album, like I ended up liking like their whole there wasn't like a song that I was like there was a single that they released, not You'll Be Fine, but it was like another single that was like and then their new album came out and I was like, dang, okay, you won me back. So
like I was kind of not feeling it at the beginning, but then you redeemed yourself.
Yes. So now switching into the paranormal, have you ever experienced the paranormal?
So I've had a few experiences, and I'd love to hear your interpretation because I've had experiences in knownly haunted places, and I've also had possible experiences in my dorm room or at my grandma's house. So I would love to hear just like your thoughts or interpretation on it, because I don't talk about the paranormal really with anyone because most of my friends don't have any of these interests. So, and especially because you mentioned how you are a part of like a local team and stuff, so I would again love to hear your experience. I guess I can start off with like a genuinely haunted place. So there's a local cemetery by my house called Oxable Cemetery. And it's known to have, I think, like there's 3 or 4 known spirits to be haunting the place. And one of the spirits is a little girl named Adeline, and she is known to be like a trickster. So me and my friends, like I've always been very fascinated by this cemetery. I've been there countless times. So one time we went with the intention to like ghost hunt, quote unquote, or in like film. So we were there during the day and we kind of waited for people because like it's not a very crowded cemetery. It's in the middle of nowhere. Like you take a private road to enter the cemetery. So we kind of waited for like the 2 cars that were there to leave. And the weird, like creepy thing about this place is that, again, it's on a private road. And when you enter the forest, there's this flat bridge, like completely flat. And then once you cross that bridge, you have entered the cemetery. So a lot of people have reported that their car gets pushed off the bridge, or that they put baby powder on like the side of the car and then they see like handprints and stuff. So there's just been a lot of reportings of like that kind of thing. And, you know, what goes along with that, a lot of people, sometimes they like fabricate things or, you know, dramatize things. So we went to the bridge and I had a Ouija board with me, and I know people have very different thoughts when it comes to Ouija boards. So we had one of those and we were recording, and we were just like in the backseat of the car. There were 4 of us and nothing was going on. So one of my friends was like, hey, Erica, or actually I wasn't even me recording. It was like my friend recording. They're like, oh, maybe you should stop recording. I like right when we hit the off button, it went straight to goodbye. We're like, okay. And then the driver, since we were like on this bridge, the driver was like, oh, we're slowly moving backwards, like towards the cemetery. Cause he's all of a sudden, we were just like talking and I felt like a thud at my window, like a rock got thrown at the window. And we were the only ones in the cemetery. So we thought maybe that was her, but again, we don't know. We don't know like, who it could have easily been somebody, but we were very, very certain that we were by ourselves. So that was really interesting. And then, so this happened last semester. I would say this happened in like October. So I was in my dorm room and I had this guy from Tinder over and, right off the bat, I want to mention that I was intoxicated. So some people might think like, oh, like what happened to you? Like you were just drunk or whatever, but I know my body very well. And I know that this is not normal. And I've never done something like this before, but we were playing a board game and, I don't remember this. This is what, that guy from Tinder, my friend told me, but we were playing this board game. And apparently like every time it was my turn to go, I kept saying, no, it's their turn. And I would point next to me and my friend's like, no, like there's no one there. And I kept saying that apparently. And I guess like, it was like super creepy. I don't remember that again, but, you know, people might think like, oh, you know, that was just the alcohol or whatever. But again, like I know my body very well. And that is not normal behavior for me if I am intoxicated. So that kind of freaked me out, especially because that was in my own like comfort space.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And then on Christmas, this last Christmas, I was at my grandma's house and when I was little, I had a very strong connection to my great grandma. My whole family, they always say that I have very similar qualities to her. Like we share a lot of similarities and they remind me, or like I remind them of her. And apparently I was intoxicated again. But I was like in the bathroom, just completely sobbing, like like really, really sobbing. Like, I don't think I've cried this hard in a very long time. Like, my brother came in and was like, hey, are you okay? And I was like, I was just talking to her. I don't remember the conversation, but I just remember like kind of like leaning down like in the bathroom, and like I just felt very like comforted, and I don't remember like, again, like my memory was very blurred. Like, I don't remember what was going on. Again, the same concept. Someone might be like, oh, well, that was just the alcohol or whatever, but I don't know. So I would be interested in what your interpretation is on that.
Yeah, well, there's a theory, and I'm starting to kind of see the correlation with it with alcohol. Yeah, you can kind of like, say that, oh, alcohol, but there's this theory that it kind of like calms you to a point where things could, you could either have good things or bad things happen, kind of like a Ouija board. You can either have good things like sincere stuff come through, or you can have darker stuff come through. So I feel like when you're like, for you, like for me, I know I have a very chaotic mind. Like it is it's going 20 miles a minute. So it may have been that when you were intoxicated, that like it calmed you down to be able to see these things. Plus there's also a thing where like stuff like that, like alcohol or even getting high sometimes opens your pineal gland and like the third eye. So that could have been like, I think I believe you. I think it's true. And I don't think just because you're intoxicated, obviously you could see stuff and hallucinate, but there's also ancient like shamanic people that would literally get drunk and high to go see visions and go see things on the other side.
Absolutely.
So you could sit there and say that, but then there was old worldly practices where they would do that. They would get high and get
right.
So, the graveyard though, I believe you. I believe those things did happen. I believe that they, were paranormal experiences that you experienced. The only thing you got to watch out with like Ouija boards is, just from my personal experience, like I've had negative things from it, but not everybody has that. And some investigators like straight up use them to talk. So the girl though, you just got to watch that it's not something concealing itself. You know what I mean?
Right. Like masking something. Yeah.
And even
a lot more evil.
Yeah. And even like with us, like even sometimes using like SB7s or communication devices, we have to watch out because that becomes a portal. So experience it all. Sorry, I'm getting messages and trying to like sort through everything. So like sometimes when people tell me their paranormal experience and I get it up here, it's like, oh my God, like calm down. Like I get it, but yeah. Okay. So this part will be edited back in. Anyways. Okay. But yeah, so I think those things kind of like definitely happened. Like I feel like they were sincere experiences. But cemeteries tend to like, I've noticed like cemeteries that we've gone to, they've always got something going on. I guess because that's literally the final like resting spot. So there's an app, if you ever do go ghost hunting, that actually like works really well. There's an app called Necrophonics and there's an app called GhostTube. And basically it's like an SB7 and it'll like they can use that to say stuff. So next time, if you're ever at like a paranormal investigating place, I would use that because you could get more direct answers.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we use that and like it's great. Like, obviously when you see apps and stuff like that, you're kind of like, oh, is this like legit? Like it's not that someone created it. But we've found like from what I was getting, like with my abilities and what like we were feeling and stuff like that, it was like, and based off like history of the land and stuff like that, it it was pretty legit. So it's Necrophonics I think you have to pay for. I think it's like $10, but the other app GhostTube is free, and I highly suggest it. Like when you go to these places, that you can get more direct answers, and like her name might even pop through or something like that, like at the cemetery. Or the only thing is like if you were to do it at your like dorm or your home or something like that, I wouldn't really do it all the time, just because that again becomes a portal that can invite.
Right, you don't want to bring in.
Yeah, Yeah, like I know
negativity.
with me, like when I first started doing the app, I was like constantly doing it in my house. I was like, yo, Megan, you need to chill out. Like, like don't start bringing stuff in. But it's unique because obviously not everyone, but most people that are in the paranormal want to be able to communicate. And even like me with abilities, I can be shown and I can, talk and kind of a little bit, but like to actually get that concrete evidence of like, hey, it came through and it said something,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Like the interesting about the whole cemetery thing is, I don't know how familiar you are with haunted places in Illinois. But there's a cemetery called Bachelor's Grove, and some even say that it's like one of the most haunted in America. It's definitely one of the most haunted places in Illinois.
Yeah.
But the crazy thing is I've been there multiple times, and when I go in there, I feel very like at peace. Like I don't feel any weird energy. It feels very peaceful.
Yeah.
But then when I go to this local cemetery, I always feel that I'm being watched. I feel very negative energy. Like, so it's just very interesting how places can vary.
And the best thing, like I know even the people on the team that don't have abilities, like their number one thing is gut instinct. So as soon as you get there, if you're like drawn to a certain area or if like, pay attention. Sorry. Woo.
Okay.
Yeah. Pay attention to your senses. Like, I think that's something like if you're smelling something different, like I know we went to one investigation where it used to be a hospital and I guess like in that time period, they used to use marijuana as like medicinal purposes. And like, we would smell like marijuana. And then like, I recently, like I'll be in a random spot and smell myrrh and frankincense for some reason. So always, it's weird. But, like I feel like my everyday life is kind of weird, so I'm kind of used to it. Like, why am I smelling this? Like I remember we lived in this one house. So basically every house I lived in always had something. And I think just because like, I had the ability, so I'm basically like calling things in a sense, not on purpose, but like, things are just coming, especially me when I didn't like my teenage years when I didn't have like a block to say like, hey, this is my house, like chill out,
Yeah.
And I remember one time I was sitting and doing like a project for school and I was like in the dining room and I was smelling apple pie. And I was like, okay, no one's cooking apple pie. It's like 3 a.m. Why am I smelling apple pie? And long and behold, there was a lady that would randomly come and she was like from the 50s and her thing was baking pies. And she was just like in the neighborhood. I don't know what her deal like 100% was.
What her deal was.
Yeah. I don't know. Like I said, at that time, I was like, I don't want to talk to anybody. I just want to go through like high school years and stuff like that. But yeah, so back to music. Is there like a song or a band that you go to when you need to decompress? Like when anything is just super overwhelming and you just want to decompress?
That's very interesting. To be honest, if I'm feeling very stressed and I need to decompress, surprisingly, like I just allow myself to feel the emotion to the max. Like I don't like listen to music. Well, like I do, but I don't have like I have like a sad boy hours playlist.
Yeah.
To be honest, I don't play it all that often if I want to like be dramatic or something. But when I'm feeling stressed out, like I just kind of allow myself. I don't know if that's like healthy, probably not, but I let myself just feel the emotion to its intensity. Yeah. And I actually like through urban exploring or just exploring or like going outside and just like walking around in general, that's kind of how I decompress. But most of the time I just allow myself to like very much feel the emotions and remind myself like it's okay to feel this way and like I'm going to just feel it out kind of thing.
Yeah.
But if I had to choose, like I do have my sad boy playlist. I love listening to like old 3 Days Grace.
Yeah.
It's just very nostalgic for me and feels very like it makes me feel at peace.
Yeah.
If I had to choose that, I would probably choose old like 3 Days Grace for sure.
Yeah. Like for me, it's weird. Like I have a weird obsession with like film scores. Like that's
okay.
Like, so like I tend to kind of just like do like walk outside or something like that, but like listen to like a film score and it like settles my brain down because like I said, it's so chaotic sometimes, especially with like getting messages and stuff like that I'm like, okay, tornado brain, like just chill out.
Yeah.
So with urban exploring, can you kind of describe like what urban exploring is to people that don't know?
Yeah. So urban exploring is basically like, I don't have like the true definition like memorized or anything. This is kind of like my interpretation. It's kind of just exploring the unknown or the hidden aspects of the world. So oftentimes that will be abandoned places, and the paranormal does kind of tie in because a lot of people that like participate and have urban exploration as a hobby, they also have interest in the paranormal and stuff like that, because a lot of abandoned places also have like are also home to different entities and stuff like that. But yeah, most like people, when people say, oh, I'm an urban explorer, usually it's they go to like abandoned places and they'll oftentimes film it, whether that's like for YouTube or take pictures. Photography is a big thing, or just educating people on the history of these places. Like I'm so happy I'm on urban exploration TikTok.
Yeah.
I get to see like cool places that people go to, because to be honest, I'm in the Midwest. Not the coolest of places. If I had to choose, the East Coast is definitely a lot. They have a lot better of places, a lot cooler of places, stuff like that.
Yeah. I know, like for me, I used to watch I don't even know the YouTuber, but I used to watch a YouTuber that would go to like abandoned amusement parks. And I don't know why.
Exploring with Josh.
Yes. I don't know why.
Oh, he's my idol.
I don't know why amusement parks like freak the crap out of me. Like
really? Like abandoned ones, or just ones in general?
Just abandoned ones. I don't know why I feel. I don't know. Like that in hospitals, like especially if the hospitals have like personal effects still kind of there. You know, there's a hospital because I'm in North Carolina, and there's a hospital like 2 hours away that it hasn't been functional for a while, and it was a sane asylum, and they basically have all of the belongings of the people that were there from like all the way back. I think it was like early 1900s it's opened. And the city bought the hospital, and you know, of course, like it closed down due to like overpopulation and like, you know, treatment and stuff like that. And so they're actually trying to build like a Central Park type of feel, integrating that building. And I was like,
interesting.
With all the personal effects and stuff, I was like, it's cool, but it's also kind of creepy at the same time, because like, you could go through that building and like, what are you going to do with the personal stuff? Like, you know, like there's unfortunately, sometimes there's people that are tied to that, because in an insane asylum, especially during like the 50s and 40s, they were just like thrown in there and left. And so,
when there was a lot of like inhumane experiments taking place and different treatments that were very unethical.
Yeah. So they were just thrown in there. And so like that is probably like something that they're like tied to. You know what I mean?
Like, yeah, it's really interesting. I see that a lot with asylums and hospitals and mental centers. A lot of times they try to refurbish it into like apartments or into some different kind of building. I don't know why, but that's just the general trend that I see with those kinds of places. It's interesting. Like there's a local hospital, which was the first abandoned place I've ever been to. And they just demolished it like a year ago. So it was like kind of sad, but also that place was incredibly creepy. So it needed to go. And also the sad thing with urban exploration and a big trend is a lot of people get upset because we don't share locations and stuff like that. The reason we don't is because, you know, it can get, if the address gets in the hands of the wrong person, you know, vandalism, like there's so many people that are like, oh, I would go in there and sell all that stuff, or I want to destroy those sinks. And it's really sad because, you know, these places are, you know, hidden aspects, and like they share stories. They have so much history to them. And when you vandalize, like you're taking apart what makes those places so unique. And it's really so upsetting to see. And then they get like demolished or refurbished or.
Yeah. And I think too, like the crazy thing about like the places that are like asylums or even like abandoned houses is like, you literally see like human existence abandoned it. And it's kind of like crazy. Like when you think of it in that terms, it's like, whoa, they just like up and left. Like I know like throughout the United States there's some like ghost towns where like people just never return, and that to me is like super creepy.
Yes.
And it's crazy too, even with amusement parks, as you know, like you see an amusement park and it's full of life and full of good times and stuff, and all of a sudden it's like just
All
dismantled.
broken down, trees growing all through it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like nature is literally taking back that, it's crazy.
Yeah.
But so like when you urban explore, do you have to like do you contact anybody like to make sure it's okay there? Or is it kind of like you just kind of go?
So I try to do as much research as I can. So I'll look up the place. I'll try to see if because a lot of times there'll be publications either from the government or like the mayor or just like about that place. Like let's say it's being refurbished. Like usually there will be a publishing about that. So I try to look up to see if it's still existing, because oftentimes when there is information that I come across online, it'll be really outdated from like 2012. Obviously it's 2021 now. So like so much can happen in that time frame. 9 times out of 10, usually it's still there and like unbothered, probably vandalized most of the time. But yeah, most of the time I just kind of go. Like there's definitely been times where I will drive an hour or two and I'll be unsuccessful. Either I can't get in or it's not there anymore, but it is what it is. Like when I drive out, it's not guaranteed. I mean, there's been one time where I got caught and had to leave, but I was kind of done with the place anyway. So I'm like, okay, you know what? You came at the right time to catch.
Yeah.
So it is a risk factor because you're trespassing.
Yeah.
It's like illegal.
Yeah.
but honestly, it's that adrenaline rush. I love it. Like I live for that adrenaline rush. Like initially getting into the place. Then once you get in, you're like, whoo, like, okay, let's film.
Yeah. No, I see all the videos and stuff like that. Like, and of course TikTok is like a hub for like, now for like creepy stuff and like, even paranormal videos and stuff like that. And I see some of these abandoned places because there's some in North Carolina that look like super cool. And I'm like, kind of want to take a stab at it. Like
the East Coast has the best places. Like Pennsylvania. Oh my gosh. Coolest places.
So back to the paranormal. Is there like a place like you would love to go, like regardless of money and time and being able to get there? Like is there one spot that you would love to like investigate full force?
Yes. So there's 2 places. One's unrealistic and one I'm planning to this summer. So the unrealistic one's kind of a basic answer, but I am just so intrigued by the work of Ed and Lorraine Warren. I would love to go to the Conjuring house. I would I always see videos, like people go in there and stuff. And again, I know it's a pretty basic answer, but like I love their work. Like I really idolize them. I literally have a picture of like Lorraine Warren holding like the real Annabelle doll like in my room. And I have it like printed like on my wall. But I've just been so fascinated. I mean, like Connecticut in general, like I've been so fascinated with like Connecticut. I feel like there's so many haunted places there. But the place that's more realistic for me to go to is in Chicago. There's 2 really haunted hotels. So there's the Drake Hotel and then there's the Congress Hotel. I don't know if you're familiar with either of those.
No, but actually they sound familiar, but I haven't like researched too much into them.
Yeah, the Congress Hotel, I think, is more known, but I do have plans to go there. And to be honest, I'm not too educated yet on what took place there. And, I've been busy with like other stuff. So I'm like, oh, I got to educate myself. But I will definitely be good. So I'll be crossing that off my list for sure.
Well, like it's kind of cool too, like not even to know like backstory sometimes, because like then you can like write down what you truly like feel like, okay, so we got this name and we did this and I felt this, and then like to go back and because like that's for me what I do is it basically tests my ability to like the extreme is like I go into a place and I'm like, don't tell me the history, so like I can fully go in there and kind of like get everything that I'm feeling. Like if I'm feeling lightheaded, if I feel like I'm like having a heart attack, if someone died of a heart attack, that kind of thing. There's a place that we investigate locally in because I'm like on the East Coast of North Carolina, so like the beach area. And there's a place called the Webb Memorial Library, and we go there and there's been some crazy stuff like I've experienced there. Like last time we went, I literally saw like this cat shadow figure thing come from one of the rooms. I mean, I've seen chairs rocking by themselves, doll legs move. Yeah, like it's I don't really think there's anything bad there. There's just like a couple of people that I feel like are tied to the building that are probably just going to stay there. They're just like overseers of the building, to make sure like people, don't disgrace the building in a sense. But but yeah.
That is really interesting.
Yeah. So have you ever lived in, I know you said like some stuff happened at your house, but like have you ever lived in a house that you thought was haunted?
I don't think so. So both houses I've ever lived in have were built, like we built them.
Yeah.
So I've never lived in I know I've been in houses that are like have like a history that may be haunted, so like that, but I've never like personally lived in one. Gotcha. But in my dorm room, like unfortunately, like there has been deaths in that building, not in my room specifically. And I don't know if that has anything to do with what I experienced last semester. It's possible, but we don't know. But yeah.
And it's kind of hard too, like when you have paranormal experiences, to like tell somebody, because you're like, I saw something, but you didn't see it. So I don't, like, right. It's really hard. Like, and like, even with me with abilities, like, cause I see everything in my mind. It's like a movie almost. And like, for me, I have to separate like what's truly is my brain and my thinking, and then what a message is. So like, it's hard sometimes when I tell people, oh yeah, there's a girl over there, she's just chilling, and it's like, where? So yeah, it's hard. It's, like with paranormal experiences, but with me, like pretty much every house, like I said, I lived in was haunted. Like, I don't know if you've ever heard of the Hat Man.
No, actually.
So it's a shadow figure. And I noticed there's some weird connection with like kids that have abilities like that, they grow up and they flourish into like having medium abilities and psychic abilities. And I've noticed a lot of people have seen them as kids. And there's like a big phenomenon about it. It's like a shadow man, kind of like with a top hat. And like, there's nothing like, there is something weird. It gives you an uneasy vibe, but he just basically stares at you when you sleep. And I saw him a lot as a kid. Wow. But yeah, there's a lot of documentaries and stuff like that on him. Definitely look him up. So leading into that, has there ever been, or is there a legend that you know of that has creeped you the F out?
You know what? I don't think so. Like growing up, I was never like, I truly got into like the paranormal and urban exploration. Literally, it's gonna hit almost a year. Yeah. So before that, like, did not like horror movies, wanted nothing to do with the paranormal, absolutely terrified of ghosts, still terrified of ghosts. Yeah. But I was not into a lot of that stuff. So I didn't want to get educated. Like I didn't want to know about it. I'm like, absolutely not. Like I have always 100% believed in ghosts. And like, I think that's also another interesting conversation, is kind of like, if you've ever been around people that don't believe in it and stuff. Yeah. But like the simple answer to that is no. Like I just never knew of any growing up. Yeah. So I just, obviously like if something happened, like that wouldn't be where my mind would go to, because I didn't have that prior knowledge or education. Gotcha. Yeah. Like for me, it would have to be, and too, the podcast has helped a lot because, and TikTok, of course, going back to that, I've learned a lot about different like weird stuff that, because basically my experience was with ghosts, like, and like, I learned about like demonic stuff. I tried to stay away from it just because like that kind of stuff, like now I'm a little bit better because I understand like the whole like good and evil and like, the light and dark, like the coexistence kind of thing. And I know like, if you take certain precautions, like you could lessen the blow from something dark and stuff like that. But for me, I would have to say the scariest thing that like we've had to research is the black-eyed kids. I feel like that is the scariest. Have you heard about them? No. Okay, so the black-eyed kids is basically, and it's crazy because there's basically people were sharing a lot about this over the internet, like on forums and
I guess it's considered a creepypasta. No, it's not, because that's fictional writing. Never mind. This is like just like people's encounters. And basically it's normally I think it happens at night, and they're around the age of 6 to 16. And basically they knock on your door and they're trying to let them in. And there's been different discrepancies of like what they are. Like some people said aliens, some people said demonic things, creatures, humanoids, like weird stuff, because basically their eyes are black, like they have no white to their eyes. And they try to like say like, hey, like our parents, are down the street. They, or that we need a phone to call our parents. It's cold. And there was an incident because we live near a military base, a huge one. And it was on the actual military base where he lived in a like room with a bunch of roommates, and they were out drinking, and he was there by himself. And he didn't drink or anything like that. He was completely sober, just chilling in the dorm or barracks. And he hears a knock at the door, and he opens the door, and there's these 2 kids. And he said he immediately got this fight or flight. And he was thinking in his head when he first opened the door, what are 2 kids doing in the barracks? Because they're normally like single men that live in not single, but like they're not married in the barracks 9 times out of 10. Anyway, so he was like, what are they doing here, like 2 kids?
Yeah.
And so he noticed that they had black eyes, and they he was like, hey, the kids were like, oh, we just want to come in and use the phone, our parents, we lost them, whatever. And they kept like pestering, like, let us in. And the guy was like, no, and like slammed the door. And so he could hear them. And like, when you say no to them, they like keep banging. There's actually a YouTuber that like specifically tries to catch them. Like, I don't know what his name is, but like, he's got like actual footage of it. Like, he is in the middle of nowhere, has all this like high tech, like security cameras and stuff, trying to catch them. And
oh, wow.
Yeah. So, but basically there really hasn't been anybody that has let them in that has been able to tell their story. So they don't know exactly like what happens when you let them in. But like there's a legend behind it. Like the more you talk about it, the more they are likely to show up. So.
Yeah. Someone one day will find out.
Yeah. But yeah, it was really creepy. And the fact like it would literally happen like a couple miles from where I live. I'm like, ugh.
Like, ooh, that's chilling.
Yeah. But wow. back to music. So if you had to see a band in their prime, who would it be?
In their prime. Yeah. I don't know why Nirvana came to me right away when you said in their prime.
Yeah.
I'm not like the hugest, most diehard fan of Nirvana.
Yeah.
But I do have a soft spot for 90s bands.
Yeah.
So I would probably, you know what? I would probably say Alice in Chains, actually.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah. Like, I don't know what it is about 90s. Like, love 80s, love 70s, but 90s, I just have a soft spot for. I don't know what it is. Like, I would have loved to, like in the 90s, there's been like some really awesome lineups that I'm just like, are you kidding me? Like, even outside of the 90s, I'm just like, are you kidding me? Like, it's like either I wasn't alive or I was like way too young. I'm like, oh man.
Yeah. No, for me, it would have to be, and it would have to be like when they first came out, because they're probably were like, I mean, I'm sure they're good now, but like, actually it's 2 bands. Like, they're good now, but I feel like when they first came out, it was just like all like aggression and like, it would have to be Metallica. Like, yes. When they first came out, like, oh my gosh. Like, and Slipknot. I'm sure Slipknot is still pretty good now, but like, I would like to see them when like first came out and like, they were pissed off and like angry at the world. And, cause I think, James Hetfield said it best from Metallica when he was like, over time you have a family and your life gets better in a sense. You lose some of that angst. And I don't know. I feel like Metallica, I would like to see them when they're like angry and pissed off, like fuck the world.
Yeah, they are going to be at Louder Than Life though. So that is very exciting.
I did see like you on Instagram and stuff like that you are going to some of the shows coming up.
Yeah. So my problem has been that I buy these tickets without plans. Like currently for Louder Than Life, I have no plan of getting there. I don't know who's coming with me. And I'm a Virgo, like I'm fairly into astrology. So like I'm very organized and like I need to have a plan. So this is very out of my comfort zone to not have a plan. But I've kind of lately have just been like very free flowing. I'm like, you know what, I'll figure it out. Like, let's not stress about this, even though like in my head, I'm like, oh my God, I need a plan. So that's kind of been like my toxic trait is buying tickets to these festivals. You know, we've been deprived for so long without a plan.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, I guess
yeah.
The universe is going to get you there somewhere.
What? But you know, another band that would be cool during their prime is Ozzy Osbourne is what I thought about. That would have been, so he's done like some really cool things on stage. I saw him at Chicago Open Air. Was it 2016? Maybe, I don't know. That's crazy. That's been that long ago, but I feel like, I don't know. It's definitely been a couple of years. Yeah. And like, he was awesome, but you know, like, it wasn't during his prime time, you know, he's getting older, but still awesome too. But I feel like he'd have been so freaking cool.
I feel like another person would probably be Rob Zombie. Like I would like to see him like when he first came out. That was actually, cause my first concert I ever went to, I was like 15, 16 was Kiss, but but like, because it was either Kiss, I would go with my dad to Kiss or my mom to Rob Zombie because like she grew up liking like really heavy stuff, like the 90s, like heavy, like I don't know if you know the band Kitty. Yes, like she loved them and like Marilyn Manson.
Prince.
Yeah, I think like when I was young, because like my first band that I was like crazy about was Green Day. Like that's another band I think I would like to see. Like when they first came out, like because their sound now is like 180-degree flip.
For sure. Like, for sure.
I'm like, is this Green Day? Like I like the songs, but I'm like, is this Green Day? Like I am like this is the same band.
No, they cannot be their first couple albums, honestly. Like pure 90s Green Day was the best Green Day.
Yeah.
The prime Green Day.
Yes. And I think too, like it was them, and then like I was insanely obsessed with No Doubt, like 90s No Doubt. Yeah, like that was the first song. Like "Don't Speak" was the first song I ever learned to like sing. Like I don't have a good singing voice, but like as a kid, it was like my first like song I ever learned to sing. And like I always like I looked up, like I used to do like the Space Buns because of that, and then that Disney Channel movie Xenon. Yes. Like I used to always do the Space Buns. Like I rocked that for like all of elementary school.
I don't know if you're a Sublime person, but that's also another band.
Yeah.
Like they're just not the same, but like that would have been so freaking cool to see.
Yeah. Well, there was a band. Here's a question. Did you ever go to Warped Tour?
Yes, but sadly, so I grew up listening to more like 80s new metal and stuff. So I was never properly introduced to like pop punk. So, and again, like, actually, no, I don't think I mentioned this. So, like growing up, no, I didn't know anybody except my dad and my brother that like rock music.
Yeah.
So I went to Warped Tour literally the last year.
Oh, dang. Yeah. Well,
right at the end.
When I met my husband, because he was in a deathcore band, and he like did multiple years of like being a musician in like different bands, and he was a vocalist in a couple, and then like he played bass in a couple. So I kind of got like the behind the scenes of like being in a band, what it's actually like
did he perform a Warped Tour?
He didn't, but but he was the one that introduced me into like the Warped Tour culture, because he like since he was like in high school he would go.
Yeah.
And so I remember I have like a funny story from Warped Tour. I went to see Black Dahlia Murder.
And, oh my god.
Yeah, and we were up front, like I was getting pushed against the rail, and they had like,
honestly though, really quick though, it feels so good on your back. Like sometimes like people push it, it'll crack your back in a way that's just so really, I'm like, oh thank goodness, like it feels so good.
Yeah, definitely. And like so we saw them, and like the crowd was mostly all male. And so Isaac, my husband, he said it was like their mascot. It was like the ape guy thing or whatever. I didn't know that, but basically this guy was dressed in an ape, like from their like band. Like they might be, I don't know. He wasn't like from the band, but he was like one of their like helpers or
okay, like
road
the
tech
crew,
yeah,
stage crew.
Yeah, there you go. That was the word I was looking for. But he basically, you know, went down in the crowd and was like shaking people like, ah, you know. And I don't know, this is just like my luck in life, but he poked my eye and took my contact with him. And so I was like, no.
Oh my gosh, I have a kind of similar experience, but a very, very different band. So I was singing All Time Low. Very different.
Yeah.
Like a 180.
Yeah.
And I was at Lollapalooza, which is like probably the biggest festival in Illinois.
Yeah.
I was singing All Time Low, and there was a crowd surfer. This man with the most dirtiest boots hit me like in the face and like left a full on shoe print across my face and ripped off like, cause I was wearing false eyelashes, ripped out my entire eyelash. I'm like,
oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah. So I'm trying to think. There was a really cool moment. So I wasn't like a huge fan of Mice and Men when like Austin
was still there.
Yeah, like
okay.
I like their stuff, but I just overall was not a huge fan. There's like a couple songs here and there that I was like, oh yeah. So it at that time we were living in Texas, so it was like dead heat in summer. Like,
yeah,
you know, like going through like 20 Gatorades and like 20 bottles of water just to like stay there. And, using a whole bottle of like suntan lotion, like sunscreen.
Oh my gosh. I have a question for you actually.
Yes.
Have you like when I asked this question, like what's the first thing comes to mind? Like have you like witnessed anything like very unusual at concerts, like in the crowd or maybe even on stage too? Just something like that you're definitely like, oh, okay.
I feel like, okay, so we were at Warped Tour and I am not like a huge ska person, even though like No Doubt like was like one of the first bands I listened to. I'm just it's like I like it, but it's not like my first choosing. And so we were kind of like waiting for another band to come on. I can't remember who it was, but we were waiting for another band to come on. And so Pepper, which is like a ska band, was playing and I ended up liking them, but literally we were in the middle section of this huge crowd and like literally I've never smelled so much marijuana. Like, it was like all over the place and I was like, what is that? Like but another kind of like funny situation that happened. So we lived in San Antonio, Texas, which is where my husband's from. And it's, you know, a bigger city. And they had a venue called the White Rabbit. And like, you know, like bands would come through. We saw Attila there. We saw Ice Nine Kills.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And my husband actually saw Asking Alexandria before they got huge. Like straight up talk to them and everything. And so, yeah, it had a lot of like, basically, if you're playing in Texas, that's one of the venues you'd play. And smaller club venues. And so there was a band, they were kind of like around for a little bit, but then died out pretty quick, was Make Me Famous. And I was a huge fan of them. Okay. And so we went to this Halloween show and it had like Attila, it had Ice Nine Kills, it had like a lot. It was a really good show. Because you know, like normally sometimes with like concerts, you're kind of like, there might be at least one band you're like, you know, I could go without.
Yeah, and then the openers you're like, not too familiar with them, but okay.
I'll use that as my bathroom break, you know?
Like
yeah. But so we were so Make Me Famous is why I was there. I was like really interested in seeing them. And it was a Halloween show and they had like afterwards where they could go sell their merch in this little area and you could go talk to them. And I'm always like the fan that's like too scared to go ask for hugs. I just kind of like sit back and just admire from afar.
Yeah.
And so my husband was like, at the time he was my boyfriend. He was like, oh my God, just go up to him and say like, good show, give him a hug, you know, like, you know, it'll mean something to you. Like, just go. And so I was like, no, I don't want to do it. You know, like, I'm nervous. Like, you know, I'm not like, you know, and so he went up to the wrong person. Like the person wasn't even in the band and he brings him over to give me a hug. And I'm like, Dad, because he wasn't a fan of Make Me Famous. So he didn't know. I was like, that was not the drummer. You had some random dude hug me.
Oh my God.
And so I had to play along with it, even though in my head I knew. He was like, "Oh, thanks for coming to the show." I'm like, "You know you're not the drummer."
Even he played along.
Yeah, I was like, "Oh my gosh."
How
Get
is
outta
it though?
here.
Having a significant other that listens to the same music as you. Because to me, I'm like, that's a dream.
Yeah.
Like that's probably like that has to be so cool. Like being able to go to concerts like with your significant other and just like mosh or do what you like, jam out, do what you gotta do.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the one thing I could say I got lucky with, because I had dated guys in the past that were just like, like Isaac was the first like metal guy that I kind of like dated. And so I dated like this country guy that like was like super into country music, like would wear like the cowboy hat and everything.
Oh my gosh.
He was he looked like Tom Cruise, like young Tom Cruise. So yeah, I was like, but we had nothing in common. Like, I don't even know why that existed. Like I should have known. And like I literally would sit on the phone and just listen to him talk about his truck for like 4 hours. So it did not match. And like he wouldn't go into Hot Topic. He wouldn't, like
no, not Hot Topic.
Yeah, I was like,
I feel like a lot of people in the rock community though, like it's like a dream to be with someone that's also in the rock community, you know? So I feel like outside of rock, a lot of us tend to share more common interests other than rock music.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I feel you probably feel the same way, but every time I go to concerts, like that's when I truly feel home. Like I truly feel like people that understand me, and like it makes me like, it's just such a reminder that I am so far from alone,
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like too, because, a lot, and we just talked about this because right before recording with you, we recorded our weekly episode, and we were talking about like so many people misconstrued, like, especially like the heavier rock music. Like, it's demonic. They're talking about evil stuff.
Yes.
It's like, bro, this is a Christian band. Like, I don't, they're literally saying like Christian lyrics. Like, I don't know. And there's a lot of like, it's just like misunderstanding I feel about rock music.
Yeah.
Like it's just, they're angry. Well,
I feel like you can ask, like you can go up to any metalhead, I'm sure, and ask, oh, have you gotten the question, oh, do you worship the devil? You listen to Death and Skull. Like, and 9 times out of 10, they'll be like, yep, I've gotten those comments.
Yeah. Like I remember in high school, there was this teacher that I wasn't even talking to him. I was talking to somebody like at our table, and I was just like, yeah, my boyfriend's performing at the White Rabbit and whatever, and like he immediately was like, don't you sacrifice animals there? And it's like, that is such a narrow-minded thing to say. Like, just you don't say that to people that like rap music or whatever, like over there sacrificing like animals, like and I told him, like, I went into this big long like theory thing on it, and I was like, I mean, yes, there is bands that do that. There's dark bands like in black metal and stuff like that, but like it's not like what you think it is, like, and
I've had this. Oh, sorry, you go.
No, you're good. And I think too, people don't understand. I think this is like the perspective I get from being behind the scenes, like with my husband and stuff, is that like, it is hard to be a screaming vocalist. Like you have to callous your vocals to be able to get, and like, too, like I give female props too that can scream, because like, like it's hard. It's not easy. And especially to be able to like get in with the guys in a sense, to be able to throw down with their vocals.
And on TikTok, there's existing videos of people like, oh, here's my progress through like being able to scream. It's like, oh, 10 years ago, 5 years ago. Now, like, it's not just something. Well, I'm sure some people maybe like they're born with it. Like they can do it pretty naturally, but 9 times out of 10, I feel like it's definitely progress. Like it definitely takes practice and time to do that, and to not like to be able to master to not damage your vocal cords, because that's also another misconception. Like people think that you're just screaming and damaging your vocal cords. Yeah. And so on that note, but yeah, I feel like too, and I think like no one truly understands like the energy. Like for me, like when, like you said, like you feel like
you belong and stuff like that when you go like at home when you go to a concert, because like anybody that judges rock music, like go to a concert. After you go to a concert, then tell me, because the fans are normally, depending on where you go, but like are normally very like they watch out for each other.
Oh, yeah.
Of course there's fights, but that's kind of like anywhere you go in society, you know, there's always like weird tussles.
Right.
But
or like drunks or
yeah. And like I was telling in the weekly episode, it's like I have a sister that she doesn't listen to rock music at all. She just does not like it. She like the heaviest thing she probably listens to is like All Time Low at like their singy stuff, you know? And or like she's big into like Ariana Grande. And so she was just bored one night and she wanted to go to a show with me. So I was like, okay, well, go with me. And so she had no clue who the bands were, no clue what the lyrics were. But I turned to the side and she's literally jumping up and down because the energy is just so radiating. Like I miss going to concerts, like because we live in a smaller town. So like Norma Jean and Fit for a King were like the biggest things that came through as far as like recently, just because we don't have like a venue that's specifically, and I'm sure with COVID and everything, it really took a toll on, you know, like the venues here, just because that's what they
like
did.
Running out of business.
With bands not touring. And I'm sure like once everything gets up and kind of like going a little bit back to normal, that like, you know, they'll see a surge. It's basically if the business can hold on to then that kind of thing.
Yeah. But like people in the rock community in general, I swear, like I say this all the time, like through TikTok, it really has shown me that a lot of people in the rock community, like they think, oh, like they're all like really mean and versus the devil stuff. Like the most caring, down to earth, amazing people I have ever met.
Yes.
So definitely. Supportive, so down to earth, so kind.
Yeah. And I think that even kind of transcends like, cause I'm like obsessed with Halloween and fall stuff. So like literally I follow like a lot of those type of people. And then I obviously in the paranormal, and I have met more friends from those two communities that like I have like in real life. So like both all those type of communities, like I guess the weird communities, because like, you know, people feel like not in the norm. So like they tend to be more welcoming. But even in the paranormal thing, like of course you're going to have some people that are, you know, like sticklers if they are higher up or whatever.
Yeah. But, the gatekeeping.
Yeah. 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 But I mean, so far for us, it's been really welcoming. Like people have been pretty nice and stuff and, all of that. So, but I noticed you were on not a collab, but like a team music thing on TikTok.
Are you talking about Mosh Shack?
Yes. I couldn't think of the name. I'm sorry. I should have wrote it down.
No, you are totally fine. Yeah. So yeah, it's called Mosh Talk. It's a collaborative page that I've made with another creator named Rena Robin. Oh my gosh, I feel so bad if I'm totally butchering her. I think it's Rena Robin 66. I really hope I'm not like butchering it. I'm so sorry, Rena, if you're listening to this. But so crazy enough, I don't know if you're familiar with Punk Talkers.
Yes, I'm not a huge like punk rock person, but it'll stumble upon my
either. And I don't want to share too much because it's not my position or business to say so. But basically, she asked me to get interviewed, and in the back of my head, like I was familiar with Punk Talkers, where they would primarily post like punk music, but you know, like with my TikTok page, I'm like, you know, I really wish there was a collaborative page that would represent like kind of a mix of everything, or more on the metal side of things. So in the back of my head, I'm like, you know, I've always wanted to have a group like that. And when Punk Talkers unfortunately fell through, I told Rena, like, I just had this random gut feeling. I'm like, you know what, like, I'm just going to tell her, I don't know if this is the right position to, or just time to bring this up. But I was like, I was literally doing my homework at a bar, like so dramatic. And I mentioned, I was like, you know what, like, I don't know if this is the right, like, time and space to say so, but like, I've really been considering making this group. And she was like, Erica, like, I will help you do this. I was like, oh my gosh. So I got up, left the bar, went home and called her. And we recruited 4 other people. So right now there's 6 of us, and it's Mosh Talk. So it's a collaborative TikTok page where our goal, like each person in this group, on their own personal page, they cover different kinds of stuff. Like each of us bring like a diversity of subgenres that we're really knowledgeable about. And so kind of the goal of it is, you know how rock music, like that's the pretty broad term. And then under that, there's so many subgenres. So I kind of thought of it almost as like a tree. So like the branch is like mosh talk, or no, like rock music. And then the branches, like all those different subgenres, like that's what mosh talk is. Just kind of like similar to what I mentioned earlier, like my goal of like my own personal page, just kind of exposing people to all kinds of subgenres. So that launched about like a month ago. And so far it's been really fun and awesome. And I'm really pumped about it and just like excited.
I'm excited to see the content that comes out of there. It is nearing the end of the episode, but I wanted to kind of leave everybody with a couple of different things. So urban exploring and paranormal investigating and all of that, what does that like mean to you? Like how would you encourage someone to get started into that?
Yeah, like if you have interest, and I've made an IGTV about this a while ago, like on urban exploring specifically, but like if you have an interest in it, I say just stepping out of your comfort zone, taking action to do so, because I know it's really easy. Like seeing like exploring with Josh, going to like really cool places, you know, in the back of your head, you might be like, oh, I wish I did that. I wish I did this. Like that would be so cool. It's just taking that initial step of actually doing so, like, you know, doing your research, finding a group of people that you trust to do so. My biggest advice is putting in time to actually like do the research and educate yourself on, you know, like obviously locations and stuff, but like the history behind the places, because that truly is the coolest part of urban exploring. And also with the paranormal, like just all the education history behind, you know, everything that's going on, whether it's like a certain place or like a cemetery or maybe a certain entity or something. Like that would be like my biggest advice on that.
Awesome. And also, where can everybody find you? Like on Instagram and TikTok?
Yeah. So I go by the same user. So it's just Erica. So ERICA, Leanne, LEANN _. So that's my TikTok, Twitter, Instagram.
Gotcha.
That's it, I think.
I will post I'll post the social media thing for you in the episode description and also on Instagram. So everybody can go and check you out, because I feel like your content is honestly worth seeing, especially
thank you so much. I'm about to be blushing.
If you're into like rock music of any sort, definitely check her out. But also just a quick side note before we conclude. For those of you that don't know, Erica is a healthcare worker, right? And I just want to say from everyone at the Hidden in the Shadows podcast that we sincerely thank you for the sacrifice, and you're willing to help people during the pandemic. So shout out to you for being even more of a badass.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you.
So that concludes this bonus episode of Hidden in the Shadows. Make sure to check out Erica on TikTok, and we will catch you weirdos in the next one.